Okay, in making Lego bricks that are more than 2 pins long, I would recommend using rectangular pattern. I would actually do this in your solids toolbar. There is a way that you can do it in your sketch toolbar. But if we want to come back and change from, let's say, being 3 pins or 4 pins long to being 6 or 8 pins long, what we have to do is come back the number of times we make that instance. The spacing between the pins is 8 millimeters, which is going to be critical in setting up our rectangular pattern. On the bottom, there are those 3 millimeter pins. There's always one less on the bottom than there is on the top. We will use this rectangular pattern tool for quite a few parts that we designed. So let's start off with one that is 3 pins long, which would give us an overall length of 24. You can also multiply this. 8 times 3 will give us an overall length. Being 1 pin wide, it's 8 millimeters. Again, whether it's tall or short, and this is a change that we can come back and make. So next, the pins on the top. If we sketch just 1 pin, and we set our dimensions in from the edges 4, in from the sides, we can go from left to right here as well. You could sketch it on this side and run rectangular pattern to the left. I am going to create just the 1 pin. I am now going to use rectangular pattern. Again, a tool that we're going to use pretty regularly. I'd pin this to your toolbar. So the first thing it is asking, I want to multiply a feature, and that is this feature. Next, which direction? Sorry, objects, I pick the feature. Direction, I'm just going to pick an edge, and I'm going to start to pull this out. The way it is done is by extent, and I think in terms of spacing this makes it fairly difficult. I would change to spacing. We want an 8 millimeter spacing in between, and I want this to happen 3 times right now. All in one direction, and hit OK. So now I have the pins on the top. I'm going to shell out the bottom, and I'm going to add the pins on the bottom. By using my line tool, I could set the center, and honestly, for having just 2 pins, I wouldn't necessarily do this, but I am going to focus on using rectangular pattern. I can make this feature happen again. So rectangular pattern, feature, this feature, in this direction. I want 8 millimeter spacing, and I only want it to happen twice. Set my material. And set your color. So once I save this, whether it's tall or short, I now want to make this brick longer. So you save this one and now you want to make it longer. Think of the steps that you have to change. If I'm going to go to 6 pins long, this needs to be 48. So my pattern was only 3 and 2. So I'm going to come to this pattern and I'm going to edit it. Instead of it being 3 on an 8 millimeter spacing, I'm going to make it 6. This pattern, instead of being 2, since there's 6 pins on the top, I'm going to have 5 on the bottom. Tall or short, change the color. So using rectangular pattern, select the feature, change it to spacing, 8mm spacing in between, and as you change one dimension, you can change the other. So we'll go back, we'll go to 4 bricks, or 4 pins, so 32. I'm getting too many. I'm actually getting an error here because I have multiple bodies. So I'm going to take the number of pins on the top, and I'm going to change this to 4. I'm going to take the pins on the bottom, and I'm going to change this to 3. So I've gone from 3 pins to 6 pins to 4 pins pretty quickly. Again, whether it's tall or short. And set my extrusion length on this one. And I'll follow along.